Welcome to the Powered to Win podcast. I'm Kyle, and I'm glad you're here for our first episode. At the heart of the show, we want to highlight the people behind the essential industries, the people doing the work, leading teams, solving problems, and making decisions that affect communities every day. There is a lot of conversation around infrastructure, energy, and large-scale systems, but not enough conversation around the humans behind it. That is what we want to get into here. One of the reasons this matters personally to me is because I believe too often this conversation stops at the surface. We talk about outcomes, we talk about technology, we talk about systems, but we do not spend enough time talking about the people who make those outcomes possible. And that is the gap we want to close with this podcast. We want to have real conversations about the people behind these essential industries, the people leading the teams, making the tough calls, managing pressure, balancing reliability with urgency, and carrying responsibility that most people outside these industries never fully see. Because these are not abstract decisions. They affect real communities. They affect whether systems stay running, whether projects move forward, whether teams stay safe, and whether organizations lead the right way when the pressure is on. So at its core, Power to Win is all about the people behind critical work and leadership it takes to do that work well. This is not just a podcast about leadership in the generic sense. There are already plenty of those. And it's not just a podcast about industry trends either. We want to explore leadership in the real world, the kind of leadership that happens in high stakes environments, that shows up when the work matters and gets tested when the pressure's high, when the timelines are tight and the consequences are real. That is where the best stories are, and that is where the most valuable lessons are usually learned. One of the ideas behind the show is the phrase, power champion. To me, a power champion is not just someone with a big title. It's not about who talks the most or who gets the most attention. A power champion is someone who shows up when it matters, leads with responsibility, earns trust, and can make hard decisions without losing sight of the people affected by those decisions. When we say power, we don't just mean electricity or infrastructure in the narrow sense. We mean the responsibility to lead, the ability to influence outcomes, and the discipline to do the work the right way when the stakes are high. That is the kind of person we want to highlight on the show. What stands out to me in these industries, the work is never just technical. It is human. Yes, there are systems. Yes, there are assets. Yes, there are projects, deadlines, and performance metrics. But at the end of the day, people are counting on this work. Communities are counting on it. Teams are counting on it. And that changes the way I think about leadership in these spaces. Because the people doing this work are not operating in theory. They are making decisions in environments where reliability matters, trust matters, and follow-through matters. That's why I believe these stories deserve more attention, not because they're flashy or trendy, but because they are real. When we think about what defines a power champion, there are 4 qualities we keep coming back to. First is integrity, doing what you say you're going to do, following through, being dependable. In critical industries, trust is not optional. Second is servant leadership. The best leaders do not just direct people. They set the tone, lead by example, and take responsibility seriously. Third is courage under pressure. A lot of people can lead when things are easy. What matters is how you show up when the pressure is high, when decisions are difficult, and when there is real weight behind the outcome. Third is courage under pressure. A lot of people can lead when things are easy. What matters is how you show up when the pressure is high, when decisions are difficult, and when there's real weight behind the outcome. And fourth is empathy, understanding that the work affects real people, your team, your customers, and your community. That perspective matters. As this podcast continues, we're going to talk with real people across essential industries, leaders, operators, builders, engineers, and others whose work carries real responsibility. We are going to talk about what shaped them, what they've learned, how they handle pressure, how they think about leadership, how they navigate setbacks, and what it really takes to lead well in environments where the work has real-world consequences. Some of these conversations will be strategic, some will be personal, some will be practical, but all of them will be grounded in the people behind the work. To me, being a power champion is not about what you build, it's about how you lead when it matters most. And that is what Power to Win is here to highlight. We want to tell the stories behind the work. We want to highlight the people behind the essential industries. And we want to explore what leadership really looks like when the stakes are real. So if that kind of conversation is what you care about, you're in the right place. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of Power to Win. We're just getting started.